Hello everybody and welcome to the Cyclical Investors Club YouTube channel. My name is Corey Kramer. Today we're going to be talking about Qualcomm stock. I'm not sure how much I would really call what I'm going to do in like a real analysis, but this one came in by request down in the comments section. If you have a request you would like me to make a video of, just drop it down in the comments section. I'll get it on the whiteboard behind me and eventually I'll make a video. I post the stocks that are in the S&P 500 for free on the YouTube channel. The rest I post on Patreon, which is $5 a month, and in the full Cyclical Investors Club service over on Seeking Alpha. If you decide to join Patreon, you can get a big discount on the full service if you ever decide to join there. And then I have chat rooms. I have articles that aren't available to the public. You can basically message me anytime. Usually I get back to people pretty quickly. And you can check that out. There's links in the description for all that stuff. As always, this isn't individual investing advice. This is just how I think about and analyze stocks. So Qualcomm's an interesting one. I actually never really like talking about Qualcomm. I'm pretty sure I'd never written on it. So here's the thing. My particular investing strategy uses historical trends and patterns to try to extrapolate out into the future. And the truth is Qualcomm just isn't very predictable using those methods. So there's not a long pattern and there's not like any real short patterns if you just look at the history here. So we had a long uptrend generally here, followed by this kind of just slow decline, and then COVID hit and we have this giant spike in earnings. So it's just really hard to kind of use history to help guide Qualcomm's future. And I think I haven't done a bunch of work on it. So when I look at a stock, let's start here. Like when I look at a stock like this as an investor, I say, okay, this just doesn't really fit any of the strategies that I use well. So I don't think I'm going to be able to really predict the future of this stock well, because I don't think I can predict earnings well based on history. It kind of is tied to its own things, and I'm not really an expert in that area. I definitely don't know more than the market or think the market's going to make a mistake necessarily that I am going to be able to capitalize on. So that's my general approach. So when I first look at it, I would say, and I don't short stocks either. So it would just be too hard. It would just be an avoid. It doesn't really fit, and I would just move on. Plus, in the semiconductor space, it's not really I don't think it's really a normal semiconductor company, but when it comes to semiconductors, I have strategies that I can just pretty much nail every time and make a lot of money on. I mean, the cyclical semiconductors are pretty much in my wheelhouse. So there's all these other companies that I know I have a very high probability of making like a lot of money on. So I just don't feel like it's like I need to go out and try to figure out Qualcomm. All that said, I'm going to offer my general feelings about it, and if a Qualcomm expert wants to come and counter that, that's fine. But here's the thing. To me, these guys make money on like cell phones, basically. So like connecting to cellular service and things like that. I just heard an interview this morning with Qualcomm CEO. That's basically exactly what he said. So this big bump here, is people buying a lot of cellular connected devices during COVID. And if we just look at Apple, which I think Qualcomm is largely tied to, I mean, they sell more than just Apple, but Apple's a good proxy, not just Apple. So here's the thing. It's iPhones, right? So when iPhones are sold, you see this giant bump in Apple's earnings in 2021, similar to you have 2 years of bumps or so. Their announced dates for their annual returns or their annual earnings are different, so it's not exactly the same, but the pattern is the same. You have these two big bumps, and then with Apple, we see a leveling off. I actually expected this to come down more like Qualcomm's did, but Apple has all these services and things that they're making money off of now too. that's growing at a pretty decent rate that's kind of picking up a little bit of the slack here. And I think so far we're seeing weakness now. I mean, iPhone's been flat sales other than this bump. So I'm pretty bearish on Apple because, and I owned it for 7 years. I owned this stock from 2013 midsummer to the beginning of 2020, right up to here is when I sold. So before all the COVID stuff, which was unexpected, right? So I don't know what the P was here. I think it was 25 or something, and then I don't think it was actually, well, yeah, it probably was, with basically no growth, and then that, so it's about the same now, a little bit more expensive. So I think Apple's expensive, but I think Qualcomm's probably more expensive because, in my view, a lot of people bought phones and things during COVID because we needed to connect to the internet more in order to do a lot of things. We got a bunch of stimulus money in order to do it, and so a lot of people have refreshed all that stuff. And they're not going to need to do that for a while. And if we have an economic downturn, people might not have the money to do it for a while. So, and I don't think Qualcomm has like all the services and things that Apple does to like make up for it. So the moves are even more dramatic here. So to me, when I look at this, we see the beginning of it last year. My expectation is maybe there's a little bump here, but that this trend continues probably back down somewhere around where it was before. I mean, we've had inflation, so maybe instead of $4 a share, now it's 5 something a share, but that's a lot lower than the 9 that people are looking for here, and a lot lower than the 10 here. So for me, this is a pretty dangerous position to be in. Like I said, I don't short stocks, so I'm not going out making a bet on this, but I would guess that this general trend we see here continues, and this bump is more of like a sucker bump, like a sucker rally. That's my feeling. If somebody just were to ask me if I was forced to make a bet, it would be to the downside on this one for a while, until people have to replace their phones or decide to replace their phones, or maybe we avoid a recession and this kind of levels out a little bit higher and goes. But to me, I'd be pretty bearish here. I wouldn't be buying. Now I would have said that right here too. I mean, and what's the stock done? It's up like 30%. But yeah, to me, that's a short-term thing. If you're looking medium-term, like 3 years, 2 years, 3 years, pretty dangerous time, I think, to be buying Qualcomm stock. And I say the same thing about, Apple or Samsung, or, I mean, I haven't looked at Samsung stock for a while, but I think they just announced, and I don't even know if I can find it, because let's just see, because there's a billion Samsungs. Maybe electronics is the right one. I don't know. It might not be. We'll see if the pattern, it's not even going to pull it up for me, is it? Oh, yeah, it is. I don't know if this is the right one, so it's probably not the best one to use. But we do see the drop here. We see the bump and the drop, but we've seen other ones more cyclical. Yeah, so that's my basic thought on Qualcomm. Take it for what it's worth. I pretty much am neutral when it comes to trying to figure this one out with my particular methods, but it's good to just know what your circle of competence is. Mine isn't really a stock like this, so I just avoid it. It's okay. There's thousands of other stocks I can pick from that I know I can do well with. So, all right. Thanks for asking about this one. Sorry I wasn't more of a help, but good luck. If you found this at the least bit helpful, you can subscribe and like the video, and I'll see everybody later.